So here we are in human physiology. We have a large class, so I'm teaching a double section. And then I added about 20 students from the wait list. So I know a lot of you are some of the lucky ones to be in here. I wish I could have added everybody, but I have to cut it off at some point. Even though it is an online class, I'm still doing a lot of like grading of your assignments. So I think in total, we're going to have over like 70 people in class, which will be a lot of fun too. So this is the welcome page. So when you come into Canvas, here is the welcome page that you'll see every time. You can click on my picture for a welcome video message. Everything that I went over in that video message, I'll cover tonight. But if you want to take a look at that video message, you're welcome to. Here are the dates of our class. Here is the syllabus, and our class style will be live synchronous. I found that teaching online, synchronous just works a lot better. The asynchronous classes are really difficult. A few of you had me for an asynchronous 5-week anatomy class this summer, and that was really difficult. So the live synchronous classes work a little bit better. So we will meet most Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6:30 via the same Zoom link. If you can't make it, these are non-mandatory classes. So I will always record the sessions. I will post them to our class YouTube channel. I will also hold office hours on Thursdays at 11:30. If you can't make that and want to meet me at another time, just let me know. As we get further into this semester, sometimes we might just meet one day a week, but I'll still always give a recording for that lecture chapter or the lecture PowerPoint or anything for a lab that I want you guys to go over. So I'm going to try to keep it every Tuesday, Thursday. As the semester goes on, we might scale it back a little bit. And sometimes our meetings might only be 45 minutes to an hour, maybe less if I'm just introducing a topic. But for the most part, we'll go through everything together in a live, synchronous, recorded, non-mandatory session. Here is a link to the important icon. And how I do my class is I basically divide our course into just 4 modules. And I know that kind of crams a lot of information into each module, but each module is about 1 month long. So I know you guys are extremely busy. That's why you guys are taking probably this night class. So just keep that in mind as you're kind of planning your time. Each module will kind of be 1 unit, kind of 1 bunch of information, and we'll go over that as well. Tonight, I don't know if we'll get to the first chapter, but we'll try to do about a chapter a week. So here is all the important information. There are, I think, 3 assignments that you have due by Sunday. So I'm hoping you've had a little bit of a chance to look at how I structure this class or watch the welcome video, but all of our weeks will start on a Monday and all our assignments will end on a Sunday. So if you have a lab due that week or a quiz, everything's due on a Sunday night. So that'll give you the weekend to complete it. And by this Sunday, you have a syllabus and welcome video quiz. Feel free to, I think I put unlimited attempts or use your notes to take that. A who am I discussion. This just helps me to know why you're taking this class. A lot of you probably are doing pre-nursing or pre-health, but it just helps me to get to know who some of you are in an online setting. I miss teaching face-to-face, but I still enjoy getting to know you guys even remotely. This is how to register for the My Lab and Mastering textbook, or the textbook with the access code. And it sounds like you have to do it through Pearson. So you can click on the My Lab and Mastering, and it'll open you up to either register for the textbook or a Pearson website. And then it'll open up the e-text and the study area. I just found out tonight that I think from the bookstore, you're only allowed to buy or purchase the e-text. But for this class, you'll also need the access code. And a lot of you brought to my attention that you can get the access code with the e-text for about $70 for an 18-week trial period. And that's all you'll need for, unless you think you'll fail physiology or you want it for longer than that. It should only be about $70 to get the access code. When you get the access code and you open up the My Lab and Mastering, it'll take you to the e-text. And what you're going to want to go into is the study area. And the study area will look like this. I won't be assigning any homework from the My Lab and Mastering. I know Pearson has some great homework assignments for you, but I'm going to be assigning enough of other things for you. So I'm going to try not to confuse you too much. But what you are going to be using this My Lab and Mastering for is all of the practice tests, practice quizzes, animations, interactive physiology. I'm kind of giving this extra resource will be really important for you to kind of be successful in the class. Because we are meeting remotely, I'll still lecture through all the chapters, but sometimes it's nice just to have a couple extra resources. The second reason is why you'll need this is for lab. So about half of your labs will be done through Lobster, which is like a video game type simulation of an online laboratory. And the other half of your labs will be done through PhysioX. And PhysioX has some really great exercises that a lot of us physiology instructors have worked together to kind of pick out the best ones that really reiterate what we're going over in lecture. And these PhysioX lab simulations take you through different simulations. And what I will do is I will assign you, let's just say exercise 2. And then you maybe won't have to do all the activities, but I'll assign activities 1 through 5 or 1, 4, and 7. And then each activity in a lab exercise takes you through a simulation, which takes you through kind of like some objectives, a pre-quiz, an introduction, a post-quiz. And at the end, so here's the experiment, pre-lab quiz, post-lab quiz, a review sheet, and then the lab report. And the lab report from these PhysioX labs is what you guys will complete and save as PDFs and then upload to Canvas that way. I'm throwing a lot of information at you right away. So if you're not getting this all, I'll explain it all again right before we have a PhysioX lab. But basically you'll be submitting lab reports in a PDF file handout, and that's what I'll be grading. And they're actually pretty good labs. I miss teaching lab in person, but some of these labs are doing things that we couldn't do in person because of all the equipment that's being used. So anatomy was a lot of memorizing and regurgitating. Physiology is a lot more understanding how everything works and puts together. So back to the textbook and My Lab and Mastering, you will want to purchase the e-text with the access code to get access to the study area, which will give you access to a lot of practice, homework problems, practice quizzes and tests, as well as access to the PhysioX lab experiments. And before our PhysioX lab is due, and I don't think we have one due this month. I think this month is all Lobster. So you have some time to get this. I will explain how to get into these PhysioX labs again. So that's the My Lab and Mastering and how to actually get into the textbook and the study area. So there's the syllabus and welcome video quiz, the Who Am I discussion, how to get My Lab and Mastering, and then how to use Proctorio. And this is something that many instructors use. A lot of students, some students don't like it, but Proctorio is basically an artificial intelligence test proctoring system that basically records your screen and records your face when you take tests. And I'm going to say right now that if you have a problem with that, or you don't think it's fair for any reason, you can look into joining another lab section. But a lot of us have been using this. I've been using it in all my classes before. They don't save your information. We're doing this to encourage you guys to learn the material, not to put extra pressure on you, but just to encourage you to learn the material the best you can. To use Proctorial, you have to download an extension using Google Chrome. And this extension you can take off. It's really simple to do. And these are directions for how to download the extension, a little bit more information about Proctorio. And again, if you're uncomfortable using Proctorio, I can't really make any accommodations for that. So if you're a DSPS student, you'll still get time and a half or double time. That doesn't change it at all. But if you're uncomfortable using Proctorio, then I would encourage you to join another lab section, because this is what I found works well for me. And you'll find that a lot of other instructors use it too. So just a heads up with that, but I give you a Proctorial practice quiz, so you have an idea of what Proctorial looks like before you're actually taking a quiz or a test. It's worth 2 points, really easy questions, and that quiz is also due by Sunday. As I'm going through this, if you guys have any questions, just put them in the chat. I'm free to kind of pause. Students and lab partners. So that's a great question, Miriam. I was actually just thinking about that tonight, about forming you guys into lab groups. And I might still do that. So I do that in another one of my classes, and some people have really enjoyed that. I think I will create lab groups for you to do for the PhysioX labs, you can join a group and complete it together. The Lobster Lab groups, you could be in a group more as can kind of be like your study groups. You can work through the lab together, but the Lobster Labs, you do have to submit individually. But thank you for bringing that to my attention, Miriam. I am going to go ahead and create lab groups under people. And to join a lab group, you'll just go into groups. And after tonight, you'll see a group that will be called Physio 1 Lab Group. And I will allow you to self-sign up for these. And I'm probably going to make about 10 groups and limit it to maybe 6 people or 7 people for a group. However, I'm making these groups, but you do not have to do this. I know some of you are really busy, and you can still have the option, Emmanuel, yes, to work individually if groups are made. So good question. Can you share the cost with another student? That's going to get kind of tricky. I would probably still get the access code yourself. I think the difference between the bookstore version and the one with the access code version is like what, $15, $20 from 55 to 70. So I would still get the access code. Technically you're going to want to work through the labs on your own, even if you are in a group, because if you don't have access to the labs, you won't be able to study from them, and you'll have lab quizzes and lab exams from them. So I would still get the access code just so that you have access to the labs and you can work through it on your own. If your best friend is in here and you guys are going to be working on all those labs together, maybe it could work out. I'll leave that up to you, but the access code will also get you to the study area, which gives you a lot of help just studying practice quizzes and exams. But I'll leave that up to you, Dixie, if that helps answer your question. And yes, so what I would ask you to, if you want to, what'll happen is if you do want to work individually, then I would ask you not to join a lab group, because for some of these assignments, just let me know if you are in a group and submitting an assignment for more than one person, because sometimes it'll submit and upload an assignment for the whole group. But if someone that was working individually, they might have an assignment submitted that they didn't want to. So again, I've formed these lab groups. Feel free to join one as a way to get to know people, or feel free to get to know people in other ways. Read through the discussion. So you guys all have access to the Who Am I discussion. And if you notice that any of you guys have similar interests or want to form a study group on your own, I'll also leave that up to you. Usually students have ways of doing that even better than what I can facilitate with, because you guys are all better at technology than I am. But all good questions. Valerie has a question in the chat. I'll let someone else help you answer that one, Valerie, but that's a good question. So check out the chat to help out a fellow classmate. So Proctorial practice quiz, our lecture lab Zoom link stays the same. My office hours Zoom link stays the same. Our YouTube channel link stays the same to all the recorded sessions. So if you miss a week of class and you want to watch a recorded session later, just take a look at that YouTube channel link. The next thing I'm going to go over right now is our Physiology Workshop information and schedule. So this is like supplemental learning, and what this is done through, it's through the Multidisciplinary Success Center. They have tutors and physiology instructors that give you some more live kind of workshop sessions or directed study of a difficult concept. And I'm asking you guys to complete 3 by December 18th. And there's a total of 5 different workshops that you can choose from. And these 5 workshops are just on kind of 5 difficult physiology concepts that we'll cover in the semester. And all that you guys need to do is you can watch the online lecture video. You'll probably recognize the voice. I made these last summer for the workshop people. Then you fill out a handout, and then you send the handout to the MDSC at lbcc.edu. So you can do that you can, option one is you can make an appointment to meet with a physiology tutor for assistance with the handout and to ask them questions, or you can just attend a live session. And there's a link to the schedule here, and I'm not sure if it's live yet. The workshop schedule should start. Looks like it's not quite live yet, but check back and I'll take a look. I'll let you know when the schedule is live for these workshops. But what you do, these are workshops that are just scheduled throughout the days, throughout the week. There's some even at night. So if you guys are only able to like attend one at night, there should be a workshop that you could attend. They go like 30 to 45 minutes and they're really helpful. So I would encourage you guys to go to all of them if you can, but you'll get credit for 3 of them. And it's just 10 points a piece. It's 30 easy points to complete them by. And I will provide kind of reminders for you guys to complete those, especially when the workshop schedule is live. I'll post an announcement about that. Speaking of Canvas, because we're meeting live, my Canvas page is maybe not as beautiful as some online classes. So I would spend a lot of your time in the module section, in the announcement section, and then when you want to check your grades. But the module section is where I will post all the modules. So again, this first module is everything in here is due by Sunday at midnight. And again, there's just 3 assignments: the Who Am I discussion, where you can meet other classmates, maybe form a study group that way, the syllabus and welcome video quiz, and the Proctorial practice quiz. And again, I did form groups if you guys want to do lab work in groups. So I will give you the opportunity to submit a lab together collectively, or if you still want to submit it individually, which is what I would probably encourage you to do because you're going to be tested on this. So yeah, I'm going to read through the chat real quick. You can choose your own groups for you. Good question. So I am just going to double check that, but in people under groups, and I'm allowing and someone already joined a group. So I think self sign up is enabled. So you guys just sign up for your own group. Somebody already joined Physiology Group 1. So I would say if you're interested in doing this in a group, go for it. If you want to join the group just to get to know people, but still submit your assignments individually, feel free to do that too. So I'll try to make this as collaborative as I can. Good questions. No worries, Israel, I got your message. Extra resources on cell membrane transport. Maybe send me an email about that, Israel, and I'll think about that and get back to you too. All right. Great. You guys are already helping each other out. Thanks. Okay. So I think we got through the important information module. Questions about that? Okay. So then again, we just have 4 modules to get through, which sounds really simple, but I pack a lot into a module. And I know that's maybe not the best, but I've noticed that people who take night classes online, you guys have a lot going on. So Module 1 takes us from August 30th to September 26th. So this is kind of our first unit, Unit 1. It takes us through the first 4 chapters, and then this is all of the topics that covers these chapters. An introduction to physiology, chemistry, the cell, and genetics. If you've taken anatomy, if you've taken other science classes, you'll notice that this first unit will be a lot of review of hopefully what you've been over in other science classes. I don't even know if we're going to start chapter 1 yet. So come back on Thursday and we'll get through chapter 1. Chapter 1 is an introduction to physiology, and it'll contain a lot of information that you should have learned in anatomy already as well. So I think for tonight, we're just going to focus on getting through the syllabus. For those of you who are watching the recording, we're just going to make this an introduction session to answer any questions. And then on Thursday, we'll start chapter 1. So this unit has about 4 chapters. So I'll get through about a chapter a week in our live classes. In these modules, what I've put in here for you is I've included more review questions. And these review questions are just practice questions from the textbook that I upload. They'll be really similar to review questions that you'll probably see in that study area of the textbook. And then in each module, you'll see a lecture quiz, a lab quiz, a lecture exam, and then all your lab work as well. So I've uploaded mostly everything for Module 1 to give you an idea. So the lecture quiz is based on chapters 1 and 2. It's only worth 10 points, but it will be remotely proctored. So what that means is you'll have to download that Proctorial extension. What Proctorial will do is it'll lock your screen. I think I give you access to a whiteboard for making notes and a calculator, and then it will just record your face. Proctorio doesn't save your recordings, and I never look at your recordings unless Proctorio flags you for some reason. So if you leave your chair, if you're looking down or away from the screen, then Proctorio will flag you, and then I'll get a notification to watch the video. But otherwise, I think in like the 2 years that I've been using Proctorio, I've maybe looked at like one video recording, which I probably shouldn't tell you because then maybe you'll try to like look away, but Proctorial will just flag you if that happens. If there's an emergency and you have to like go to the bathroom or something, just send me an email after you finish the test, and then I will, give you points docked off for that. The quizzes, I don't believe are open note. I'll put instructions on that. Since they're being proctorioed, they won't be open note because they'll be looking at your face. The audio, so I might not have it listen to audio because some of you have things going on in the background. So I'm going to make some notes right here, and it won't do the audio recording because I know some of you are with like dogs or your kids. 4 kids. Wow, I have 3. But yes, so so just make a note here that Proctorial will just record your screen and your face, but not the audio. You cannot use your notes. If I change that, then I'll take Proctorial off that, if that makes sense. So like if I'm giving you a quiz and it is an open note, then it won't be Proctorioed at all. But if you see a remotely proctored sign, then that signifies no notes. All good questions. All right, so in the module, you'll see all the PowerPoints that I'll lecture on, extra review questions that go with the chapters. There'll be a lecture quiz, and there will always be a due date for this lecture quiz. So you'll notice the module itself goes until the 26th of September, but you might have a lecture quiz due in there. But again, I'll upload all of these so you can stay on top of your assignments. So you'll always know what is due when. And the lab. So here then in each module, I'll provide the lab's information for you. There'll also be a lab quiz and then a case study and a lecture exam, and I'll get to everything. I know it seems like a lot of things, but again, think of, this is working through the whole month and the due dates will be staggered. So I think, so again, think of with each module, you'll have a lecture quiz, a lab quiz, the lab work, a case study. And this case study is already posted for you. So if you guys want to start, getting ahead, you can start working on case studies. If you took me for anatomy, this will seem really familiar, but in each module, I have a case study, which just kind of connects what you learned in one of the chapters with a real world example. So this is about pleurisy, which is inflammation of the lungs. And you can look into what that is. But so for each case study, the grading is taken right from the syllabus. And I realize I haven't even opened the syllabus yet. I'm just jumping into kind of taking you through the modules. But for the grading criteria, each case study is worth 30 points, which is a lot of points. And I usually give all points out really easily. But what you need to attain those 30 points is you get 10 points for the introductory initial post, which is at least 150 words with a citation. And the citation can be anything. I'm not picky. I just want to see where you got your information from a source, and at least 150 words, which is maybe like a couple of paragraphs. So it's not that long. And then 2 reply posts to classmates for a total of 30 points. So each post is worth 10 points. I think you guys have the whole month to do this, so you're free to work on it whenever. Just one note is that you won't see any posts until you post your first one. So you have to do kind of your own research without reading everyone else's. So should we follow along with lecture? Do you have a calendar of what we should be covering on what days? Great question, Dixie. So I'm not really good at micromanaging. I'm kind of keeping things a little bit more wide open in my course. And I'm sorry if you guys don't like that. I think, I would follow along with the modules and, if you keep coming to my live classes, more or less, I go through about a chapter a week in my live classes. So, we get through chapter 1 and then chapter 2 next week. So you'll notice chapter 12 or the first lecture quiz on chapters 1 and 2 will be due September 12th, which is 2 weeks from now. So if you can kind of look at the due dates of the assignments, I correspond the due dates of a lot of your assignments with what we'll be going over in class. You can reply to two classmates. And you didn't see that. Good question. Let me go back to the case study quick. And a well thought and complete reply to a classmate. So, and a follow-up post. So I need to make that. Good question. Thank you guys. You caught an error. So you need to reply to 2 classmates. So it's worth 30 points total, your initial post, and then 2 reply posts. And I will make sure I change that. Good question. Yes, all lecture quiz material, all lecture exam material, I try to take directly from the PowerPoints. I know you guys are probably thinking you have a lot of places to study from, but I try to take a lot of my questions from material directly in the PowerPoints. You don't need a works cited page for the citation in the case study, Lauren. You just need a citation. So let's say you provide me with like 3 paragraphs worth of information. If you have a direct quote, just behind that direct quote in parentheses, give me the citation, or what a lot of my students have done at the end, just provide the 3 sources that you've gotten that information from. All good questions. Just going to write a couple of notes here before I forget. All right. So what else did I want to say? So this is module 1. You'll have a lab quiz in module 1. And this lab quiz, again, will be worth about 10 points. And it'll be based on these kind of 3 labs that you'll be doing. So, so I don't really have study guides. Areas of focus, yes, Miriam. So usually what I do, and if you had me for anatomy, you'll know that when I'm lecturing, if there's something that I want you guys to focus on, or I know there's some test questions on, I usually bring that out in a lecture while I'm lecturing. So I don't offer study guides, but I usually offer some areas of focus while I'm lecturing. So I really encourage you guys to either come to live class or for sure watch the recordings, because I try to give you guys areas of focus while I'm lecturing. No study guides though. Good question. Okay, so in terms of labs, we do about half using the PhysioX, which is through the My Lab and Mastering, which is what you need the access code for. The other half of labs, we do what we call Lobster. And the Lobster, and I haven't I didn't preload one, but if you open it up, it gives you kind of an introductory material to the Lobster Lab. And then you can load the Lobster Lab. It'll load in a new window. It works best with Google Chrome. And these Lobster Labs use a lot of kind of power from your computer. So I have like 10 windows open right now. So it's probably not going to work well, but it takes a while for it to load, but then it gives it. Oh, they actually recommend Firefox. I'm so sorry. So try Firefox if that's better. These Lobster Labs take you through basically a virtual simulation of lab activities. They take you through all the information of the lab. They're great labs. You can do them as many times as you want, but they take maybe an hour or 2 to get through the whole lab simulation. You have questions to answer throughout the lab simulation. There might be 20 to 30 questions to answer during the lab simulation. And then what Lobster does is it correlates how many you get right. And it puts that into terms of 10 points, because each lab that you do is worth 10 points. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of exit out of the Lobster Lab and I'm going to let you guys kind of look more into that on your own. But it's a lot of students like it because it's like a video game simulation, but it uses a lot of kind of power from your computer. So keep that in mind.
I have a
It's,
question.
yep.
So you mentioned that we're allowed to do that as many times. Does that mean if we get like 50% on the first try, we could get 100% eventually?
Yep. So it'll record your highest score. Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
Yep, but just keep in mind that it does take like an hour or two to get through it. So I would just block off like 3 hours if you guys have that at one time to do the Lobster Lab, because you're probably not going to want to redo it because it takes so much time to get through it. But yes, you can do it as many times as you want. It's really fun. I think what you guys do in Lobster, I know nothing takes the place of hands-on lab activities, but some of what you guys will be doing in Lobster is a really great, it's not hands-on, but it's not bad for being an online lab. So that'll be fun. And your first 3 labs are doing Lobster. You might hear my computer whizzing in the background. So give yourself some time to do those. So you already have 1 Lobster due by September 5th, and that's this Sunday, because I want you guys to start getting into kind of using them. And all the labs for this module for this month are using Lobster. So I'm giving you guys some time to get that access code when we start doing the PhysioX labs. The lab quiz will be based on information from those first 3 labs that you'll do, and you'll have 2 lab exams this semester. One will be at like midterm on the first 5 labs, and then the last will be kind of a final lab exam on the final 5 labs. Okay, so with that, I'm going to pull up the syllabus. And to get to this syllabus, maybe the best is going from here from the welcome page, because I've turned your syllabus into its own page. So here is the actual syllabus, with kind of basic student learning outcomes, the course description. I have a Word document of the syllabus, and the Word document should be under Files, Haley. If you want me to convert it to a PDF, I can do that too. Just let me know. Course structure and attendance. I don't take attendance, but I would encourage you guys to come to the recorded and live Zoom classes Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6:30. I'm probably going to keep them to about an hour long. So you can think of it being from like 6:30 to 7:30 twice a week. Some weeks I might just give you a recorded lecture. I'm going to start doing Tuesdays and Thursdays. If I start to get, kind of lose a lot of people, because sometimes maybe I'll only have a couple people joining, I might start recording more of those sessions, kind of pre-recording, but we're going to meet every Tuesday and Thursday from 6:30 unless I tell you otherwise. And then in each module, you'll find the chapter lecture PowerPoints for that module, 1 lecture quiz, a case study, discussion post, and an exam, a lecture exam. You'll also find all the lab instructions, videos. I don't offer a lot of pre-lab introductory videos because I'll go over lab during this like live time that we're together. Lab report assignments. You'll only be submitting a lab report if it's through the PhysioX version of the labs. The Lobster Labs will give you a grade automatically. So they will grade what you get out of the total number of questions, right, out of 10 points. And then you'll also have 1 lab quiz per module. You'll have 2 lab exams throughout the semester. So at the end of module 2, so kind of at the end of October, you'll have your first lab exam, and we'll go through how many points that'll be worth. You'll use the My Lab and Mastering through the Pearson textbook, so you'll need the access code. We'll be using it for the lab activities, the PhysioX, but there's also just a lot of extra practice problems and homework help that you can use through there as well. We'll be using Proctorial, the secure exam proctoring system, to take most of your quizzes and exams. Some quizzes might be open note, but for sure all your exams will be through Proctorial. Recording your screen and recording your face, but not your audio. And take a look at that for how to use Proctorial. The biggest thing that I want to stress too is that for a 5-unit course, you have to spend about 20 to 25 hours a week whether that's in class with me, studying the material on your own, working through a 3-hour Lobster Lab or a PhysioX lab. So even though this is an online course, there's still going to be a lot of work, and you'll have to stay on top of that by doing at least 20 to 25 hours per week of work. Because my modules are kind of open-ended, that gives a lot of freedom for you in how you study. So I would just encourage, just don't leave everything for the last minute for that.
I'm so sorry. I have another question.
Yeah.
For my anatomy professor, we used Proctorial, but an issue that would happen was everyone's internet was really bad, so it would kick us out. Problem was he didn't allow re-entry for the exams, and it would make it really hard because we would lose out on time. Do you allow re-entry for your exams?
Great question. I will allow re-entry. I think I had a couple people where that happened for. Let me make sure so let me make sure I enable that in your Proctorio. What might happen is I might not allow you a re-entry, but as soon as that happens, I would give you another attempt on the exam. And if I notice that this is happening suspiciously a lot, I might start having you guys take your tests on Zoom or something while on Proctorio, because I feel like there might be some people who get around that a little bit. But yeah, does that help answer your question? Because
It was just that for some of us, if we would take the exam at 11, because some of us had work, I would take my exam at 11, and then Proctorial would actually slow down more because everyone would take their exam so late that it would crash. And
Good
then
question.
I would text their tech support, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, we can let you in. Oh no, never mind. Your professor didn't allow reentry." So then I'd be
Okay.
like, "I was almost done. Do I have to retake my whole exam?" And he would watch my video and say, "Yeah, it was the internet, but I'm so sorry. You have to retake your whole exam."
Good question. I'm going to allow, so I will make sure, I'm going to try to, I have a note here to check my Proctorio settings. I'm going to try to make sure that I'm allowing re-entry, because that'll just sounds like it'll make it easier on everyone. And if for some reason you guys have problems, let me know. But because then you guys don't have to retake the whole exam, which would not be fun either. So yeah, that will help you get back on in, but only if I allow re-entry. Yeah, okay. You took your test at Starbucks, good. So a lot of you guys are used to Proctorio. That makes me feel good, at least. Does that help answer your question? I'll make sure that the re-entry kind of setting is checked. And if you guys notice you're having problems, just let me know. Especially with the Proctorial quiz, or I guess the Proctorial quiz will probably be easy to do, but let me know if you guys run into any other problems. Okay. Percentages and then point values. The point values, I mean, these are kind of rough point values. It's pretty much the case. I think your introductory module, there might be 15 points there instead of 20. But make sure you do those, that there's the syllabus quiz, the Proctorial practice quiz, and the introductory discussion. The lecture exams, again, it says 400 points. I think they're all about 400 points, 400 questions. Quizzes will be about 80 points. And where I get 80 from is, there's 4 modules. And in each module, you have 4 lecture quizzes and 4 lab quizzes, I'm sorry, excuse me. In each module, there's a lecture and a lab quiz. So total, you'll have 8 quizzes throughout the semester, and they're each worth about 10 points each. So that's how I get 80 points between the lecture and lab quizzes, just 2 for each module. The case study discussion posts, that's worth more than 1 lecture exam. And the case study discussion posts, I always grade really easily, as long as you make the word count 150 words, and you include a citation, and your reply posts to 2 classmates are detailed replies. Yes, so your Proctorial exams are always due by Sunday at midnight, and you'll get, I think, how I've done it in the past is 90 minutes per exam or 2 hours per exam. Am I firm on grades? Oh, I'm a softie. I round up on grades. So if you and the class with an 89.5%, I would round that up to a 90. I'm a softie on that. Lab exams, you have 2 lab exams at 50 points each, which are worth 100 points. Your lab exams, this is why, you guys can submit your lab reports as a group, but I would encourage you guys to submit them individually because I take some of your questions directly from your lab reports or directly from information that you've been going over in the Lobster Labs. So I would say if you do the labs and you understand what you're doing, the lab exam should be no problem, but you might want to go back and review the labs before to study for those lab exams. All your questions in everything, I think all questions are all multiple choice. There might be some fill in the blank in lab exams, but I try to keep everything multiple choice, especially for lecture exams. There might be a couple fill in the blank questions for lab exams. Lab reports or lab assignments, you'll have 10. So we'll go through about 10. We might get through 11 labs, depending on how we're doing, because there just are so many good labs to do. And they're all interesting and fun and exciting, which I'm sure you guys will feel the same. But for sure, when I say a lab report, I mean the Lobster lab that you do, you don't submit a report for that. You just go through the lab simulation, which is like a video game, and then you answer the questions. And then Lobster will grade your lab automatically and put your grade out of 10 points into Canvas. You might be answering like 50 questions throughout the lab simulation, but they'll just kind of turn that into points out of 10 that you get right. And you can do those Lobster labs as much as you want. They'll record the highest score. The PhysioX lab reports, I will grade individually. I really kind of look at, when we get to PhysioX, I'll go over that in a little more detail before your first PhysioX lab report is due, and kind of how I'll grade those lab reports. And then the supplemental instruction, which are the workshops, which we talked about. There's a link to these workshops in that important information module. You have to complete 3 at 10 points each for a total of 30 points. And those are going to a live session or a session with a tutor, filling out a handout and then submitting that handout to the Multidisciplinary Success Center. They keep track of them and then they let me know who's completed those at the end of the semester too. Yes, PhysioX and Lobster is all under lab reports. So when I say lab reports, what I mean is lab assignments. That wording is different. So lab report stands for lab work, whether that's Lobster Labs, which will grade it automatically where you don't have to submit a lab report, or the PhysioX labs. Good question. You guys are answering a lot of good questions. This takes you through a little more detail into lecture exams, quizzes, case study discussion posts. Because we have I'm a softie, like I said, and I added a bunch of people from the wait list. So we have maybe 70 to 75 students in our class. So because there are so many of you, because you got a spot in physiology by fighting tooth and nail to get here, I don't offer any makeups because it just gets really messy really fast if I have to keep track of people who have to make up. So if you miss the due date for a lecture exam, a quiz, any sort of assignment, you just miss out on it. Again, I am a softie. So if there is some sort of emergency situation, I will allow you a makeup or an extension, but please get your assignments done on time. That'll make things easier for everyone. I usually will send emails and messages out the day an assignment is due. So on Sunday nights, you might get maybe a couple messages from me saying, hey, this is a friendly reminder to submit your assignment. I'm not coming down on you or anything, but if you get that, it's just a friendly reminder. It's a way for me to contact people who haven't submitted an assignment yet, and make sure that they know it's due that night, that Sunday at midnight. A little more about lab reports. There's a total of 10 lab reports, more like lab work through Lobster or PhysioX, lab quizzes, supplemental learning assistant requirements. And then the rest of the syllabus takes you through any sort of basic needs that any of you might have. Take a look, email the basic needs email address, or take a look at this if you might need anything. The Associated Student Body Statement, LGBTQ statement. Everyone's welcome. We're in an area of respect. So I just ask that we would respect each other. Academic integrity. Thanks to Proctorial, that kind of takes out a lot of the cheating, but especially in the case study discussion posts, If I do notice you've just copy and pasted, some wording, I will give you an automatic 0 for that case study. So just put the information into your own words. Laboratory procedures, student services. I've gotten a lot of DSPS student, things come through. So I will keep track of the DSPS students and give you guys the 1.5 or 2 times the amount of time needed for the test. If for some reason I ever miss out on you, just send me a reminder. But you need to register through the DSPS office, and then they will send me a letter. And then that official letter means I will give you extra time on an exam. The biggest, I think it's not a disability, but kind of accommodation was extra time on an exam. If there's anyone in here who has a different accommodation, just let me know, because sometimes I kind of pass over that quickly. So if you have any other sort of accommodation, let me know as well. Online course, you kind of have to kind of manage your time really well, put in the amount of time. I would say don't wait till the weekend to do all the assignments. That's why I have a synchronous class. So try to come to these synchronous classes, do an hour or 2 of work or study a week, and you'll be fine. The big thing here is not having a computer or access to the internet is not a valid excuse. So if you know there's an assignment due, you just got to make sure you have a computer or internet. I think LBCC is still lending out possibly computers or hotspots. So let me know if you need access to any of those as well. Important fall dates. I'm hoping that none of you need to drop, but it's your responsibility to confirm these drop dates. Usually by now, if you've made it this far into physiology, you don't want to drop. But keep in mind, last days to drop with a refund is the 12th, which is in 2 weeks. And that would give you, by the 12th, you could drop the class without a W on your transcript. You have until November 21st to drop the day or the course with a W on your transcript. So that won't affect your GPA, but they would still see that you would have the withdrawal on your transcript. And then the rest of the syllabus takes you through the modules, what's included in each module, when the lecture exam is, more or less. You can see that each module and lecture exam is just based on the chapters that we went through in that module. And then we have lecture module 2. You'll just notice we have your lab exam at the end of module 2. Module 3, you'll see kind of a combination of PhysioX and Lobster Labs. So you won't have your first PhysioX lab until kind of the end of September. So you have some time to get those access codes. More PhysioX labs here in the 3rd module. And then the 4th module will have more PhysioX labs, and I might add a lab 11. So that is the modules. The exam will be cumulative at the end of the semester. However, it covers all chapters, but it's at the end of module 4, which is already chapters 21 to 24. So you can expect your final lecture exam to probably include 80 to 90% of the questions will be from the chapters in module 4, and maybe 10%, maybe 15% of the questions will be probably from questions that I used on previous lecture exams to make it a cumulative lecture exam for your final. All right, guys, how are you doing? I'm going to go ahead. I'll keep the recording going because I think some of the questions might be valid for people who are listening in, but what questions do you have for me? Good question, Dixie. Let me take a look at, I hope they are still lending out computers. Let me look into that program and to see if they're still doing that. I hope I didn't speak too soon, but I think they are still. They are, good. Ashley, oh, great. So you guys are more beneficial to each other than I am. So I will try to put a link for the lending of computers onto like an announcement page for you, Dixie, but it sounds like you still can. What's the best way to contact you? So you can contact me through Canvas or through email, because when you send me a message in Canvas, it will come to my email. So either one is fine. I'll get it through my email and I'll respond within 24 hours. Yes, exams are mostly multiple choice. Lecture exams are all multiple choice. And your lab exams, there might be a couple fill in the blank, but I would expect all multiple choice for your exams. It makes it easier on me than grading 70 exams. Ashley, so is that what you just said? They're lending out computers Monday through Thursday, 9 to 3 at the Welcome Center? Is that what?
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. That's great news. Okay.
They said they have quite a bit left too.
Thank you. Okay, and I would encourage you guys, if any of you do not have a reliable computer, I would encourage you to borrow one just because the Lobster Labs will use, I mean, you'll need some power in your computer. So I would, even if you're kind of getting by with a laptop, but maybe you just want to try one out, I would take a look at borrowing one for the semester. Thank you for including that. Good question, Lauren. So I'm going to reiterate that. I think in my syllabus, I mentioned it, but I offer 0 extra credit opportunities. And that's like my hard and fast rule. I offer 0 extra credit opportunities because, you know, there's a lot of really easy ways to gain points throughout the semester. Doing the workshops, that's 30, basically free points. The case studies, if you guys put an ounce of work into your case studies, that's like 120 free points right there. So I don't offer any extra credit opportunities because there's a lot of assignments, even your labs. You know, if you do the time in your Lobster Labs, do the time in the PhysioX, you'll get all those lab reports. Yes. Good question. So the labs that are due with the PhysioX, so what you'll see in your modules, and let me see, I think I've copied a previous physio course. So down here for like the PhysioX, this is an example, you guys can't see this on your end yet, but so for example, for this lab, there'll be an option to submit a file upload. So you'll be able to like save a PDF of the lab report to your computer, and then you can just submit that as a file upload for that lab report. No, so the Lobster is already open for you. You guys do not have to pay for Lobster. LBCC pays for Lobster for you. So Lobster, you guys can go into it right now. You don't need an access code. The PhysioX Labs, that is what you need the My Lab and Mastering for. So that's what you need, you know, when you purchase the textbook with the My Lab and Mastering access code, and then you'll get into PhysioX by clicking on My Lab and Mastering, opening it up, and I have like a million open up already. When you open it up, you'll go into the study area, which is right here. The study area will take you to kind of an area where you have a lot of access to practice tests, practice quizzes, and then here is the PhysioX Lab exercises. It kind of takes you a while to get there, and before your first PhysioX Lab is due, I will go through all that information again. So if you're really lost on how to get to that, don't worry about it. The first 3 labs that you guys have due, and you have a lab due this Sunday already, and I will probably post an announcement about that because it's kind of hard to find, is just a Lobster Lab, and you can find it here. It'll open up a new window. Apparently it works best with Firefox, but I found Google Chrome works well too. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end my recording.